Hello everybody, welcome to Neuro Fundamentals today, where we are not live because I've forgotten my laptop, also forgot my tripod as well, so I'm stuck with this kind of awkward camera angle. Today we are going to be looking at visual acuity, so this is just going to be all the different things that you might want to try, you might want to train to be training your eyesight. Okay, now what do I mean by visual acuity? Basically, if you think about when you go to the optician and you have to read through the eye chart, that is your visual acuity. So that is your ability to see things clearly, okay? And it's not the only component of vision. It's not the only component of vision training, as most of you know when you've been doing our programs, but it's the one that we seem to care about most about in society. We've got opticians specifically to look at only that. Historically, because that was useful for classrooms and things. I'm not quite sure why it's the only type of vision that we are still interested in when there's so much more going on, but it's one that we look at. So today we're going to be talking about how to improve it. So second question, is it actually possible to improve your visual acuity? And the answer is probably. There's a lot of conflicting research out there that kind of suggests one way or another. Despite what the research has said, it has been shown that a number of people are able to see improvements in their visual acuity. And one of the bizarre and baffling things, given that the entire kind of optometry industry seems to be based around the idea that your eyesight is going to get worse with age, the arguments that they throw out very often in the area of visual acuity is, oh, well, maybe some people, their eyesight just gets better as they get older and it's nothing to do with vision training or anything like that. I don't know, it's possible, seems a bit far-fetched, but based on the results that we've got with people, based on the results I myself have got, getting my prescription down from about minus 3.5 or maybe minus 3.75 to minus on the right, minus 3.25 on the left, to where I'm at now, which is about minus 1.5 on the right, 1.25 on the left. I've seen this over a number of years drop down through different types of vision training, and that's kind of what I'm going to share today, is the most likely things that you want to be training if you want to see improvements in your visual acuity. So let's get into it. As always, we are going to start with breathing, and for visual acuity, actually, we're going to want to improve our parasympathetic tone. So we're going to want a nice relaxed response, and that's what we're going to be training. So what we're going to do for our breathing is we're going to take our hands, we're going to put them just right down over our torso, and we're just going to do some banded breathing, but just with our hands, okay? So if you imagine hands on your torso, and you're just going to do some deep breathing, and you want to feel the hands expanding away. Now you can put your hands anywhere on your torso, so you can go right to the front, or you can go behind your back, and again, if I can give a good angle for this, a good example, your fingers should be able to move further apart. So, not sure how I did, that didn't feel amazing, but literally any two places under your ribs, you're just going to keep doing some deep breathing and just seeing, can you get those bits to expand, okay? And we're only focusing on the deep breathing in. You can be nice and relaxed on the way out. That part doesn't matter so much for now. So one or two more times. And then the second type of breathing that we're going to do is just minimal breathing. So barely breathing at all. So for this, you're now going to go from the deep inhales, and now your job is if you imagine you had a piece of paper, so laminated paper is not probably such a good example, but if it was right under your nose or right under your mouth, depending how you're breathing, you don't want it to be blowing the paper. You want it to be so light on the exhale that the paper just stays completely still. And the same on the inhale, you're not trying to snort it up, you're trying to keep it super light. So minimal on the way in, minimal on the way out. You're trying to make it only deep enough that you can maintain it, okay? So if you go really, really low, really minimal, and then suddenly you need to take a huge inhale, that's probably not so good for getting this parasympathetic tone. As soon as you do that super sharp, deep breath, that's going to mildly fire the kind of stress response, and that's not what we want. So if you need to breathe a little deeper so that you can do it for longer, that's what we go with. So hopefully you're still doing that, but we'll keep going for 3 or 4 more breaths before we get into the actual work that we're gonna be looking at. So when we're thinking about the eyes and we're thinking about the lens in the eyes, there's a load of different things coming together to make that happen. So you might just be thinking of the muscles around the lens, and are they tensing hard enough to change the shape of the lens so that I can see more detailed and more clear things, just the same way as your camera lens has to change shape to focus. But if you take the example of a camera, there's a whole load of things underneath that can make the lens's ability to focus almost obsolete. So imagine if you do have a camera and your arms cannot hold the thing still. Doesn't matter how good the lens is, the image is still not going to be a clear image, okay? And this goes for the entire way your eyes and your head are set up. So you've got the lens in your eyes, you've then got the muscles around the eye, which are then going to stabilize the eye to make sure that the lens is steady enough, just like the camera, to do its job, okay? And it's really important that the eyes are able to do that, because when I'm walking through space, actually my head might be moving all around the place. And so my eyes are going to need, the muscles around my eyes act almost like the steady cam, and that's going to keep the image steady. Alternatively, those eye muscles are pretty small, so they're not going to be able to maintain that job for a really long time. So eventually I'm going to want to stop, and I'm going to want to just hold my neck still so that my eyes don't have to do so much work to keep that image in focus. So we're also, as well as the lens, as well as the muscles around the eyes, we're also going to be looking at the muscles of the neck. That's probably about as far as we'll go today. There are some other things like your thumbs, weirdly enough, that can help to enhance vision, but I very much doubt that we're going to have time to look into those today. So first thing we're going to do is look at the lens. So what we're going to have a look at first is just first of all making sure our eyes can stay focused on the one image, focused on the correct image. So to do that, you're just going to take your thumb straight out in front of you, and you're just going to stare at your thumb, and we're just going to bring it all the way in and all the way out. So this is a pencil push-up. I'll just go slightly on the side. You're bringing your thumb all the way in, all the way out. What you want to know is, are both eyes actually focusing on the same thing at the same time? Because if they're not, then the lens is going to struggle to do its job. The way you're going to tell that is the thumb splitting into two at any point, okay? So can I go in? Can I go out without the thumb splitting into two? If the answer is yes, then great. We're going to move on to the next point. If the answer is no, there are other things we can do. Speak to us if you're interested in finding out like more detailed things. For now, we're just going to do it a little slower until you can make it the entire way in with no splitting, with no switching. One of the most common places where you're going to get some switching is on the way out. So first thing we want to be able to do really well, good pencil push-up, just helps to make sure we got both the eyes focused on the same thing. Now we're going to look at each lens individually. So to train the lens, normally what I'll say is we probably don't want to use our thumbs. We probably want to use something that has a little more detail. So something like we've got our own branded vision sticks now. So we got little letters on top of them, or even just dots, or something that is a little bit finer in terms of detail that you can see. You can obviously use, most people, when they buy pens, the pens are going to have writing on them, and we're going to be able to use those to use the focus. But the finer the detail, the better. Since Neuro Fundamentals, we want it to be exclusively doable without any equipment. We're just going to use the thumb for now to show you how you would go about training it. So to train the lens specifically, we're going to do that same pencil push-up, but we're going to cover one of our eyes. And the reason we're going to cover one of the eyes is as we come closer, we just want only the lens to be focusing. We don't want to be worried about the movement of the eyeball. And when our thumb is in the middle, as we bring it closer, while the lens is going to have to work a little bit harder, the eyes are also going to have to start moving. And if we want to train each of these individually, that's not going to be ideal. If there's a problem with this one, we might find that we're not able to fix it because we're just trying to focus on one thing. So first up, I'm going to cover one of my eyes. I'm now going to hold my thumb in the center of my vision. Okay, so not in the center of my face. The center of my face is normally the center of my vision, but now that I've covered this eye, that actually is off to the left. So I'm going to bring it right to the center of my vision, and from there I'm going to do the same pencil push-up all the way in, all the way out. If you are using your thumb, try to focus on one little part of it and try to keep it as clear as you can the entire time. Okay, so you're going as far in as you can go until it starts to get blurry, and then you're going as far out as you can go where you can see it without any blur as well. And we're just going to do a couple of reps on each side. Again, if you record this, so if you're recording it up close with that eye covered, you want to see your eye stay pointed exactly the same direction. You don't want to see your eye traveling and moving around when you do this one. Okay, so we're just going to try that a few more times. That is really the best exercise you can be doing for the lens of the eye. Like I said, use something with letters on it to help train this further. And I don't know if you can see, but we've got this little H on our pen here, is designed specifically to be kind of squashed in a little bit more narrow, so that it's a little harder to focus on up close and far away. So they tend to blur into each other. If you can find some text that is not super wide and well defined and is a bit more squashed up, that can be really ideal. So that's the lens. Next up, we're going to train the extraocular muscles. So these are the muscles all the way around the eye, and to do this, all we're looking at is gaze stabilization. Okay, so this is the kind of staring contest exercise that we have a lot of you do in some of your programs. You're going to hold your thumb directly out, you're just going to stare straight at it, and the idea is to see how long you can keep focused on it. Now, if you've ever done an assessment with us, we say, how long can you do this without blinking? For visual acuity, probably best that you allow yourself to blink. The not blinking is to help us assess the kind of frontal lobe and focus areas of the brain, so it's not so important here. But what you do want to know is how long can you keep your focus on your thumb while your thumb isn't moving, because that is going to tell you how well coordinated all the muscles are around your eyes to actually be able to maintain that good vision. Now, since we actually want to be training our visual acuity for use in the outside world, we probably want to be training in different eye positions. Okay, so we're going to go now around a compass. So we're going to start straight up above. I'll just move that into the camera so you can see. So now I've got it slightly higher, and I'm going to stare for, again, as long as I can. I'll go for about 5 or 10 seconds in this, but ideally eventually you want to be building this up to at least 30 seconds. Then I'll move slightly over to my right, and I will do the same thing. So just keeping watch on the top right diagonal. What's going to be interesting as we move now to the right is you want to see, are any of these particularly difficult, okay? Now, note when I'm on my right as well, you don't want to be so far out that only one eye can see it. So if you've moved it right out far to the right, cover your right eye. If you can't see it, bring it back in till you can, so that you know that both eyes are actually fixed on it. Okay, so training visual acuity is great. If you only train visual acuity where one eye can see, your brain is going to start to prefer that, and what it will do is when you're looking with both eyes, it's just going to start ignoring whichever one is slightly weaker. So let's just move this down to the bottom diagonal now. So same, gaze fixation, just holding my gaze on the thumb, not letting it move, but allowing yourself to blink if you need to. We'll go straight down to the bottom now. One of the other things, we'll move to the bottom left. One of the other things that you can think about as well, given what we talked about with the training of the lens, is you could be doing all of these, just straight to the left now, at different distances, okay? So you could see, can I actually do this entire compass point position super close up? And the eyes are going to be in a slightly different position. Let's move to the final one. The eyes will be in a slightly different position. Again, if you're doing this with text, can also be really great to find out, you know, are the eyes actually stabilizing things, and is the lens able to work in all of these positions? If you find one position where you can hold your eyes there, but the text that you're looking at goes blurry, that is the one that you want to be training, okay? Similarly with this, if your thumb starts to go blurry, or if you just find it uncomfortable, so if there's some positions that are just more uncomfortable than other positions, those are the ones that you are going to want to be working. All right, so what is the next thing that the eyes need to be able to do is they need to be able to stabilize while the head is moving. So we're going to incorporate the head. This is one we've done time and time again, the VOR, vestibulo-ocular reflex. What we're going to do to kind of save time here though is you're going to stare at your thumb. You're now going to draw a circle all the way around with your head. Okay, and again, you're trying to make sure your thumb isn't splitting into two. You want to make sure that your thumb is not going blurry, or the text is not going blurry if you're using text. And you also want to make sure that actually, if we're saying this is supposed to be a circle, does it feel like my head is traveling smoothly in a circle? Let's switch that up to go the other way now. But does it actually feel like I'm moving smoothly in a circle? Or does it feel like at some certain point my head starts to tilt or do something a bit weird? Again, if you find there is one particular problem point, I would recommend just training that much more slowly in a semicircle, okay? So again, what is this doing? Now the muscles on the outside of the eyes are actually moving, and they're moving in opposition to the head, okay? This is one of the fastest reflexes that you have in your body, specifically because vision is so important to us. So if we didn't have this reflex, everything would just be bouncing around, not going to be particularly useful. Does it make your visual acuity better? Not necessarily, but one of the things is that it's worth knowing is that your lens is the muscles around your lens are usually quite good at working, but If anything else is not working, they're not going to make the effort. So it's quite a lot of effort to contract both lenses of both eyes hard enough to be able to create a really clear and detailed picture. If the camera is just shaking all over the place, then the brain won't even give the energy to the lens. It's just going to say, you know what, you could do that, but you're just going to get a really clear image of something that's shaking and moving around, so there's no point. So actually, while when these first kind of models of training eye movements were proposed, they used to think that actually the muscles around the eyes were the ones that were contracting to make the lens change shape, and we now know that that's not the case. But if those muscles aren't working well, the lens is not going to contract, okay? So this is one of the reasons why we say train up all of them, because the steadier you are, the easier it is for the lens to do its job. And if you've ever been trying vision training and you just haven't been getting better or haven't been seeing the results, very likely we would say you want to look to, at the very least, the extraocular muscles. More likely, we're going to want to look to the neck and the vestibular system. So we've done a bunch of those circles. Now let's actually look at what is involved in keeping the head completely still, okay? So again, like I said, sometimes your eyes want to do the stabilizing. Your eyes, those extraocular muscles, super small. They don't always want to have to be doing all the work, okay? We also want your neck to be doing the work. Most of you who work in an office will be familiar with that idea of like putting tension in your neck. So that forward head posture puts your neck under a lot of tension so that A, your lens doesn't have to do so much work, but B, your head is actually going to stay still. Whereas when you're pulled back here, actually can be a little bit harder to keep your head still. So first thing we're going to work on for keeping the head and the neck still is something called the vestibulo-colic reflex. So this is training the kind of stabilizer muscles in the neck. And the way that we're going to do that, either you can look at your thumb and use one hand, or you can look at a target on the wall and use two hands. Just since we've been doing it, I'm going to go with the thumb option, especially in case you're somewhere where you can't use a distant target. This is just a white wall in front of me, so there's not really anything to stare at. So I'm going to stare at my thumb. I'm going to take my hand behind my head, and then my hand is going to try to push my head forwards. My head is going to push back, okay? So I'm pressing right back. Pretty sure we've done this in a few other lessons. So again, you'll probably be finding with a lot of these neuro fundamentals, there's not always a whole lot new to learn. It's just the application. So what exercises, what skills are useful for what things. This is one of the reasons why we say all of these ones, you probably want to be really good at all of them because they're so useful for so many different applications. So I'm pressing back, and I'm keeping my focus on the thumb, again, trying to make sure it's not going blurry, it's not splitting into two, anything like that. If that's happening, this is one that you really want to be working on. Then I'm going to come to this side. So now I'm pushing my right hand, trying to push my head to the left. And the same thing. Hopefully for most people, this will just make things clearer. So everything will just start to look much clearer, or there'll be no change. Again, very few, the tension is going to make your eyes go crazy, but it does happen, so watch out for it. Then we're going to go to the other side, so you're going to have to swap hands here and just keep staring at that thumb, keep it in focus, eyes staying nice and still. You are allowed to blink. And then we'll come to the front. So again, when we're at the front, just make sure you're not getting your elbow in the way. Okay, cool. So those are 4 different directions. You could also do diagonals as well. Anything that's just providing some kind of resistance or stabilization to the head is going to be really useful here. Next thing that we're going to do is we are going to look at some of the muscles around the back of the skull. So these are the ones that in the research have been found to have the strongest impact and strongest effect on your visual acuity. So first up, we're going to do something called cervical waves. And the way this exercise is going to go is you're going to start by tucking your chin as high up your neck as possible. So if you imagine you're trying to almost get your chin to touch your Adam's apple if you've got one. So you're going to pull in like this. You might be feeling some kind of a stretch down the back that is just below your suboccipital muscles. Don't worry if you are or you aren't. But then from there, you're going to slide your chin all the way down and then curl yourself up to reset. If you want, you can go all the way up to the top and then you're just going to repeat that. So it's tuck the chin as high as possible and then slide it all the way down your chest. Now, you're sliding as far as you can move. This is much harder to do staring at the camera. As far as you can move, moving only your neck. So I can go much, much further if I start to round my upper spine, but it's really just as far as I can go from the neck and down. And then just like with most of the movements that we do, we can start to reverse this. So I can start by looking up. I'm now going to bring my chin as low down as I can possibly go. And then I'm going to slowly slide it up. You might be able to feel this moving kind of vertebrae by vertebrae. You might not. You might just feel a whole load of movement at once. For now, it doesn't really matter. The better this area moves, the more active the muscles can be in stabilizing the head. And then, again, the lens is able to do its job a little bit better. Second exercise we're going to do is going to be for the little joint called your lambdoid suture. It's the little joint along the bone at the back. To do this, we're going to do a little tuck, a tilt, and a turn. And then you're going to do a full... That is not correct. If you're wondering why I was staring for so long, I thought I had got it wrong. And yes, I got it wrong. So we're going to tuck. So tuck your chin in. You're going to turn your head, and then you're just going to now flex your neck as far down as you can go. So it's a little bit like that spinal wave where you started with the chin tuck, except now we're not going to do the wave down. It's going to be a tuck. You're going to turn your head away, and then you're just going to drop your neck as far as you can, okay? So tuck, turn, drop, and then you're going to do small little head nods. Okay, you might feel, again, this one can be, you can start feeling things anywhere in your skull, in your head. Some of you may feel something around here. That could be especially indicative of this might be helpful for your eyes. But again, the sensation in this one can often be quite unusual. So then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to tuck, we're going to turn, we're going to fully flex. And then we'll just try those same small nods. Finally, we're going to try a contraction and stretch of the suboccipital muscles themselves. So those are the kind of muscles just down here on the skull, on the back of the skull, and they tend to have a pretty strong correlation with our visual acuity. Hopefully you can see that on the camera. What we're going to go for is a full contraction, full stretch. This one, again, can be really hard to feel, and for some people it can be really easy to feel and really easy to cramp up and ruin your day. So what I will say is go very tentatively into this one. I'm going to go straight into it and show you what the end result looks like. I would watch, I'll repeat it again after. The second time, go about 10% of the way, and then 10% of the way for the stretch. And then try it again to 20, to 30, to 40, and just gauge how you feel after each one. It's probably not a good idea to just push yourself into this particular position. That kind of spot on the back of your head is where you want to feel either a bit of a contraction or a bit of some stretching, but again, you might not feel that initially. It might just be all over the place. So the way we're going to do this, for a left-sided contraction, we're going to lift your head all the way up, and imagine you're not dropping your head back, you're pushing your chin to the roof. And again, we're looking for a muscle contraction here, so you're really trying to press up as much as you comfortably can. And once you've got that, you're now going to push your head forwards as much as you comfortably can. And from there, you're going to look to your left. Okay, and you're going to go as far across as you possibly can. And again, quite likely you're going to start feeling some kind of tension around the back of your head there, okay? And that is hopefully going to be in the area of the suboccipital muscles to make the contraction happen. For the stretch, we're going to do exactly the opposite. So we're going to tuck the head down as far as you can, okay? And tuck the head, we're not dropping the entire neck, we're just tucking in the chin. We're then pulling the head back as far as you can, and then you're looking the other direction. So if we're stretching the left, we're going to be looking to the right. Okay, you might have noticed me stop talking there. You also might have noticed me shaking my head. My left suboccipital is not great to be stretched, so that's one I'm currently working on. So I'm going to do the right side now. Feel free to do the left side again and go 10% to try it out. Like I said, you don't want to push right into this the first time, just in case you do the exercise really well, but your body doesn't like it. So for the right side, remember, for the contraction, we're going towards the direction. So you're going to look up, your head's going to go forwards, and then you're going to look towards the direction you want to contract. So if it was left, you would turn left. For right, you would turn right. For me, that definitely doesn't feel right. I definitely half-assed that one, and I just got a big crick in my neck. Okay, cool. So, and again, you just want to push in, see can you feel that contraction. Then if we want to do the stretch, you're going to tuck, you're going to pull your head back, and then you're going to turn your head away. So for my right side, if I want to stretch it, I'm turning my head to the left. And then back. So we're going to leave it there with the exercises. As we saw, we kind of looked at, first of all, make sure your eyes are pointing at the same thing. That's going to have a really big effect on your visual acuity. Second, you want to train the actual lens. So you want to make sure that the lens is comfortable, contracting and relaxing. It's going to do that as things move closer and away. Then you want to make sure your eyes can stay still in whatever position they want to be. And that could be different distances. That could be different points in space. That could even be different head positions, okay? So you could train any and all of those. You could literally go for hours just training different kinds of head and eye positions and just making sure your eyes are really good at staying strong. For now, we recommend just do the compass points around your face. That should keep you mostly right for most of the things you want to do. After that, we looked at getting the vestibular system involved. So making sure that your eyes can actually stabilize when your head is moving, because your head is moving most of the time. A lot of the time through the day, if you're moving, your head is moving. If your eyes are trying to stay locked on one thing, you need to be able to move the head and have the eye muscles all push and pull exactly the right amount so that the image stays still. Then, eventually, if your eyes are going to get tired doing that, you want your neck to stay still. We looked at some resistance, some isometrics, and we also looked at a couple of specific muscle stretches and mobilizations that can help with that. If you are genuinely interested in seeing can this actually help your visual acuity, I recommend go online, download a Snellen chart. Okay, so Snellen chart, basically just an eye chart that the opticians use. You can Google search them and hundreds will come up. There are loads of different types. This specific type, so when you get the A4 one, usually it is known as a 10-foot chart. So if you are familiar with the term 20/20 vision, that means you can see from 20 feet away what the average person can see from 20 feet away. I don't actually know if that is true anymore with the averages, but that is what is classed now as 20/20 vision. This is a 10-foot chart, which means they've made everything half the size so that you can be 10 feet away instead and read down the chart to test it. So you just get a tape measure, measure 10 feet away, figure out left eye, right eye, what's the lowest you can read, then get to training. You could probably test after each one of those exercises. So, you know, do the lens, then cover that eye and see, can you actually read any further down? If not, move on to the next one. Do your gaze stabilizations. Both eyes open, cover the eye and see how far can you read, and just find out if any, even if you don't get a full jump down, can you actually read anything a little bit clearer? And if you can, that's probably the exercise that you want to be working on to improve your visual acuity. If not, if you're not interested in seeing like your glasses prescription or anything go down, just like with all the other episodes in this series, I would recommend just find the one you're really bad at and get good at it. The benefits of being able to see things clearly, the clearer your eyes are able to take an image in, the faster your brain is going to be able to process it. You'll find you're able to think quicker in many situations. So it's not just for the purpose of getting rid of glasses. That can be a super long process, so a lot of people aren't even interested. But the benefits to having better vision for the rest of your life are massive. So just something to think about. All right, I'm going to leave it there. I apologize for the shoddy setup. I will hopefully have my laptop back and tripod back next week. But yeah, thank you all for watching.